I have made several mistakes in my life, but I just made the worst mistake of my life.
Oh, God, let's hear it.
Do you know or have you ever seen what a botfly is?
Oh, yeah. I have. They burrow into your skin.
I don't want to talk about it.
All right, sure.
I got on botfly TikTok.
Why would you do that?
I didn't do it on purpose, Joey. And now I have to stab both of my eyeballs out. I have no choice.
Okay. Harris, do you have a knife? Screwdriver, we're gonna gouge Ellen's eyes out. No, it's a botfly. Yeah, botfly TikTok. Okay. She's on her way.
I'm sorry. I honestly used to really think I had pretty eyes, and now they do mean things to me, and they give me nightmares. So, bye, everyone.
Ellen,
Thank
start
you.
the show. Start the show.
Don't look up botflies.
Start the show.
Hello, everyone. Please, you all, honestly, I put this on the close friends circle on Instagram because I was so shocked and appalled at myself. I mean, here's the thing about me, which is an adorable trait. I didn't just watch one video.
Yeah, I believe that. I mean, I think everyone in their lifetime has gone down some sort of botfly wormhole, like whether it's YouTube or Facebook or something, and it is pretty horrible because, like, when they finally remove it, you just have a hole in your body.
Okay. This is actually my fault. This is all my doing. I don't want to talk about this anymore. And this is not a call to action.
Oh, okay, got it.
Do not go look up botflies because I am changed and not for good. Welcome, everyone, to I Think Not. I am Ellen Marsh. And I don't know who I am anymore. And over there is Joey Taranto. And you are listening to I Think Not, the podcast. I don't even know what we do here anymore. So.
Yeah, I mean, you just never know here at I Think Not what we're going to bring up, whether it's the weather, whether it's the weather. Okay, goodbye. I'm so long. I quit this podcast. I think I fired myself. So here we go.
We're a podcast where we recap all of your favorite true crime TV shows. And we are in the middle of Killer in Plain Sight, which I am loving. You can find it on Hulu and over on the Patreon. We're watching another really good show. We've actually had a string of really good shows, which makes our job very challenging.
Yes.
So could you all recommend some bad shows again? We want to go back to, Smug Shots. I Almost Got Away with It. Over there, we are watching How I Caught My Killer.
It is an excellent show, and also I was shocked that it's on Disney+. I was like, oh, okay, Pocahontas, Aristocats, How I Caught My Killer. Great, here we go.
Aristocats, what a throwback. What about Oliver and Company?
Why should I worry? Why should I care?
I've never seen that one.
Okay, I don't want to talk about it.
Go on.
But there is that show and so much more over on the Patreon. Honestly, you guys, there's so much content. You could literally hole up in your house for a couple of months. That actually sounds delightful. And listen to us for hours on end. We also have tons of community projects and things we just like to do with you guys because we just like you guys.
Yeah, we do. So for as little as $5, you can get a ton of bonus content. So head on over to patreon.com/IThinkNot and join the buffoonery.
Yeah, and Patreon boxes are going to be coming out soon. Didn't we just send them out? I don't know. I feel like that's all we do. But there is tons of bonus content over there on Patreon. But don't forget, we're always going to be here, right here in your ear holes every Wednesday with a new show. Shall we get to the episode, Joey? Season 1, Episode 2 of Killer in Plain Sight, Teenage Rage.
Well, we are in Richmond Beach, Washington. Hop in your DeLorean because we're going back to 1975.
Great Scott.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest was raking in the dough in the box office. A Chorus Line debuted on Broadway and was a smash hit. And we also learned the function of endorphins in our body. True story. Ellen, I think we have a clip of Hans Kosterlitz explaining the true function of endorphins. Do you want to hear it?
I do.
Great.
Exercise gives you endorphins. Endorphins make you happy.
And there you have it. Thank you, Hans. Anything else you'd like to add?
Whoever said orange was the new pink was seriously disturbed.
Fascinating. Great. That voice sounds familiar. Hans, interesting. Go on.
This is an educational podcast. We learned that George Peterson is about to leave for work. That is not his name. Brian Smith,
Right.
Tom Jones,
Uh-huh.
Bob White. Okay, I do have something to say about George Peterson.
Okay.
Okay, you know I am very unwell.
In what way? In what regard?
Just agree.
Okay.
Do you know when I heard the word George Peterson, what I immediately thought about?
George Peterson.
No, you don't. Rick, roll the tape.
Ed Rooney.
Ed, this is George Peterson.
How are you today, sir?
Well, we've had a bit of bad luck this morning, as you may have heard.
Tell you what, dipshit. You don't like my policies, you can just come on down here and smooch my big old white butt. Pucker up, Buttercup. I think I owe you an apology, sir.
Well, I should say you do.
I
Well, I think you should be sorry, for Christ's sake.
Joey, I am as serious as restless leg syndrome when I say this. Why, in the entirely formed fuck, do I remember that? That Cameron prank called Mr. Rooney as George Peterson. Now, if someone says, oh, yeah, you just go 3 blocks and then to the left, I go 1 block and forget what they said, but I can remember the color of the awning at the bodega by my grandmother's house where we used to get Italian ices. I can't remember where I parked my car in a mall parking lot, but I can remember that fucking quote.
Yeah, well, I'm as serious as an orgy at the American Revolution. The reason for that is ADHD, my love.
I am actually concerned for my health and well-being
No,
that
your
I pulled
brain
that
is
out
like
of my...
a Venus flytrap, just capturing moments, capturing memories, capturing information that will one day just show up out of the blue.
It said George Peterson. I was like, oh, like Cameron. Okay,
Get to the story.
I'm fine. Anyway,
Why should I worry? Why should I care?
his name is George Peterson. And right off the bat, we meet Stephen Moore, who's an FBI special agent. And all he wants to do is tell us about this frantic dog that's outside. It's very frantic.
George hears the dog barking frantically behind the house. George finds the frantic dog next to his daughter, laying on her back on the ground.
This sounds like one of those word problems in 3rd grade. What was the dog? Frantic. Anyway, this is where we learn basically what has happened. They tell us the end at the beginning. Well, George Peterson goes out to see what his dog is barking at, and it's there that he sees the worst possible thing. His 16-year-old daughter lying in the backyard, absolutely motionless. She is cold to the touch. She has no pulse, and he immediately calls the authorities.
So the police arrive, and clearly there has been a struggle. They see blood on the grass. They see blood on nearby rocks. It's very gruesome.
So the reenactment cops come, and I just, for the sake of consistency, I need to tell you, and I'm actually not trying to be funny. And most people don't think I am. Just read our reviews. The cop taking the report looks like an extra from Staying Alive. He is not in a uniform. He is wearing a butterfly collar shirt and an even bigger butterfly collar, like brown leather jacket. He was like, I don't know, the description said come 70s. I'm a method actor. I absolutely can't. He's not in uniform. He just has like a badge on his Staying Alive outfit.
Yeah, what do you expect? They showed the cop cars, and those cars, they're all driving 2020 Toyota Camrys.
Yeah, there was a Nissan Maxima in there for sure. And we learn that the victim in this story is 16-year-old Dinah Peterson.
Now, Dinah grew up in Richmond Beach with, wait for it, 8 brothers and sisters. I know this house never knew a moment's peace. They never had 2 things, hot water and patience, because I would lose my damn mind.
You thought you didn't have any privacy growing up.
My God, but despite living like a Von Trapp family with all these damn people in the house, Dinah was actually very friendly, very happy, just like a bubbly personality.
I mean, it's not everyone who comes from a big family is a monster gremlin person. You would just be a monster gremlin person. I mean, I feel like you already have too many siblings. I'd feel like if you had a choice, you'd keep your sister around, and if there was one life jacket, I'm pretty sure she would get it, and you'd be like, sorry, Micah. Sorry.
That's horrible.
But true.
Dinah spends her last evening watching TV in the basement with two friends. It's Valentine's Day, and she'd rather be out, but she's been grounded for disobeying her father.
What were they watching, babe, in 1975?
I'm sure the Partridge Family.
All in the Family?
Or either. All in the Family, I don't know. But the Partridge Family was mid-70s.
Laverne and Shirley, Sanford and Sons, Happy Days, Jeffersons, Maude, MASH, Mary Tyler Moore. I'm fine.
Jeez, take your pick, my love, take your pick. But here's the thing, she's punished. She's relegated to that basement with her two friends. I'm like, at least you get company, because when I was punished, nobody was allowed in the house.
We didn't get TV.
Yeah.
TV was the first thing to go if we got grounded.
Absolutely. So around 9:30 p.m., Dinah somehow convinces her mom to let her run and grab a pizza. And her mom is like, fine, go. Well, around 10:30, she hears Dinah come home, and then she hears Dinah yelling in the backyard. But she describes the yells as almost like playful screaming, like she was goofing off.
Listen, there can be sounds that sound like someone may be in pain, but it could be other things. It's hard to decipher sounds.
Are you speaking from personal experience, my love?
No, I'm just saying, if someone's in a hotel room, when making everything's fine. Just don't bang on the wall. It's fine.
Listen, Dinah's mom was annoyed, very annoyed. She opened the back door, called for Dinah, let the dog out, but there was no response. And she's thinking, well, Dinah is just being silly and like, I'm gonna go back to bed.
Yeah. And so nothing else of note happens. And that's when we pick up with poor George Peterson going in the back and finding his deceased daughter. So the medical examiner gets there. Now, I have some information later. They don't tell us when they get there, but it's pertinent information later. And they roll Dinah over because she's laying on her back. But when they roll her over, that's when they find a large hunting-style knife in the middle of this poor girl's back.
Yeah, the knife was so large, it pierced her lung and her heart. And so it resulted in a very quick death for her, but just so violent. 16 years old. So now this quiet town of Richmond Beach is contending with a homicide.
So the police question the parents, and they were like, we don't know what happened.
He grounded Dinah because he was upset that she was seeing a boy 3 years older than her.
Dinah snuck out yet again to see her boyfriend. Her father goes ballistic.
I don't know. This guy lives next door. It's very convenient.
Well, Papa George found out that she went next door, and he literally went there, drug her out of there, and forbid her from ever seeing him again. And Dinah was distraught. It's a very
Daddy, I love him!
moment.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's what she got grounded for. She got grounded for going over and swapping spit with Tim when she wasn't supposed to. So that's why the parents were so confused. They're like, she was grounded. We let her go out for pizza. We're just not sure what happened. So obviously they're going over every possible theory, every possible scenario, just to find out how this tragic murder could have happened.
So now the police are considering, did Papa George snap? Had he been waiting in the backyard for her to try to sneak out, caught her, and then did the worst possible thing? And I'm like, look, I know this might be naive. I know people do insane things. That just seems really far-fetched. Maybe, I don't know, to be like, I'm going to punish you and I'm trying to protect you, but you won't listen, so I'm going to murder you in our own backyard.
Yeah, they just thought maybe he had some kind of rageful temper. Well, of course they have to look around. So they go into George's garage and we see reenactment Peterson hold up these knives. And that's when they say a very confusing comment.
For a quiet neighborhood, there are a lot of people who own some pretty dangerous knives.
What does a quiet neighborhood have to do with anybody's collection of knives? And aren't all knives dangerous? What the fuckery is this? What kind of a statement that's like the cops coming over to their house, they're like, knock, knock, knock. Hey, sorry to bother you folks. Stroganoff? Smells delicious. Anyway, yeah, just wondering, this being a quiet neighborhood, approximately how many knives do you have? Just the really dangerous one. What? There weren't a lot of knives? I am so confused by this comment.
It's just interesting. I'm like, I sleep with a knife under my mattress.
Do you really?
Oh, yeah. It's one that I got as a gift for standing in my brother's wedding. He gave all of us a knife with our names engraved on them, and it's like you fold it open. But I mean, that knife is there. And that's what working in true crime will do to you.
I would feel like a switch knife would be very like, oh, you
just wait. You just wait.
Let me get this switchy. Look, it's got my name.
Wait, I'm almost done. It's like a Rubik's Cube. Hold on. Aha!
I did not know you had a knife under your mattress. Was that one of the secrets that I don't know?
No, it's not. It used to be a baseball bat in New York, but here I just have a knife. Anyway.
George has 2 knives, in his garage. So they're looking into the family, and of course, next they go to Dinah's friends.
So when they speak to Dinah's friends, they also show them the murder weapon. And some of them recognize it. They say it belongs to boyfriend Tim next door, the one she was forbidden to see. And that's when we get some information on this boyfriend, right? His full name is Tim Diner. He's 19, born in Seattle, Washington, but grew up in Richmond Beach in the house next door to the Petersons. Now, he lived in his parents' basement, and he had a private entrance to said basement, and all of the kids loved to hang out at Tim's place, right? It was like he had his own apartment, the door was never locked, and they could just do what they wanted, and people came and went as they wanted to. Dinah was one of those kids.
But Dinah's parents are like, you are 16, going on 17, and he's 19. And they think that's too old, and I happen to agree. I don't trust him. I don't like him. I don't like him. I don't trust him.
Yeah, well, I mean, God knows what's going on in that basement. I'm assuming it's the 70s. They're smoking a lot of doobies. Now, the reason that Dinah's friends recognize that murder weapon as Tim's so quickly is because Tim loved to show that knife off. He was always talking about it, bragging about it. He was like Angelina Jolie in the late 90s. Every interview, she was talking about how obsessed she was with her knife collection and that damn vial of blood around her neck.
Yes, I forgot about that.
Yeah, well, Tim displayed his knife on the mantle like it was a Golden Globe or something. What the fuck?
Now, of course, it has to be said that just because Tim had this knife doesn't mean he committed murder.
Right.
Because it was in plain sight. And like Joey said, the door was always unlocked and it was kind of the party house. And then they tell us another very curious statement. They said,
It's always good to find the murder weapon, but in this case, it didn't really narrow down the suspect pool.
I mean, it narrows it down a little.
I think so.
It narrows it down to whoever hangs out at Tim's house.
Right.
It's not like the whole town.
Yeah, I mean, it's also interesting the avenues they were going down. Like, obviously, yes, the fact that people can identify that the murder weapon is Tim's knife, yes, he goes to the top of the list. But they even went so far as to say, well, what if when the dad was taking Dinah out of his basement, that he happened to see that knife and grabbed it on his way out and then murdered his daughter? That is so far-fetched. What is this, the plot of Geely? I don't understand. What is this, the plot to Snakes on Planes? What is this, the plot to Free Willy? I'm here to tell you, no killer shark was jumping over a wall to his freedom.
First of all, they're orcas.
Okay, whatever.
And they have a bad rap. Regardless of all of these options, they have to bring Tim in for questioning. And his alibi was he was at a friend's house the night that the murder occurred. So Tim's story goes, when he got home from being at his friend's house, he heard Dinah's dog barking in the backyard. Then he went home and watched TV, and he was hopeful that Dinah would come over and, make out a little, maybe do some over-the-clothes stuff. But Tim knew Dinah was grounded, but he's still holding out hope that she's going to sneak out just like she did the night before. But as he's waiting for her, he falls asleep on the couch, and he woke up essentially to a crime scene in his backyard.
So back to the night of the murder. Remember, Dinah was hanging out with 2 friends until she got permission to grab some pizza. One of her friends was a girl whose name they never give us, and she goes with Dinah to go get that pizza. But the other was a guy named Jim Groth, and Jim was not invited to grab pizza. Imagine.
No.
Cool. You guys are gonna get pizza? I can't. Okay, I'll just stay here with your parents watching MASH with I'm by myself. Cool.
No, you guys go. I didn't even want any. I'm not even hungry. Now, Jim is a neighbor. He lives like 2 doors down. He's just a year younger than Dinah. And they describe him as
It's quirky and weird.
I mean, maybe quirky and weird people grow up to, be on Broadway and have podcasts. I mean, maybe being quirky and weird is like a really endearing quality to some people.
Nobody ever called me quirky and weird. They just called me So later that night, Dinah's mom goes downstairs to their basement to turn off the TV, and she sees Jim sitting there still watching TV. She's like, the fuck? What the fuck are you still doing here? Get the fuck, go home. This is not your house, and it's really weird that you're sitting here in the basement watching TV on your own. What the fuck? Could you imagine?
That actually, no. Like coming downstairs and being like, what are you doing? Why didn't you go for, who are you? Jim, get out of here. That just must have been so weird. But he didn't go home. He says that he went to the bowling alley until about 12:30, and then he went to Tim Diner's house to see if anyone was hanging out because it was the party house, and nobody was there. And he saw Tim asleep, and then he went home.
And now remember, Tim's basement door is always unlocked. I don't know about you. Utilize a lock. Like,
Yeah.
If you're going to be sleeping, like, could you imagine just waking up and I'm standing over your bed being like, hey, want to hang out? Want to watch video games?
Do you want to do karaoke downstairs?
You just being like, Jesus. Also, I just want you all to know that when Ellen wakes up, she wakes up like it's the end of the world. Literally like someone, like she unwittingly is doing the ALS challenge and somebody's dumping a bucket of ice water over her. She's like, I'm like, I literally just said, good morning, honey.
It's just if someone wakes me up, I do it to Lola, I do it to my mom. When I wake up naturally, I don't wake up like that. But if you just say, like, Joey is so sweet, he'll like go out and get us coffee in the morning when we're on tour, and he'll be like, hi, honey. And it's so uncontrollable and it's so accurate. I don't know what's wrong with me.
It's crazy. She looks like Large Marge in Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
It looked like this.
I'm like, my God. And then I want to be like, what happened in your life to make you wake up like that? And then I'm like, never mind. I just remembered.
I don't want to know. So they're interviewing young Jim, and the reenactment of the officer, because we're going with the 70s theme hard, and they're just smoking cigarettes in the interrogation room. You know, because in the 70s, you could smoke in airplanes, hospitals, churches.
You could smoke a cigarette while you were giving birth to a baby.
If you wanted to, yeah. They're just like, let's make this really authentic. Smoke a Pall Mall in that kid's face.
Smoke him if you got him. Well, by the end of this interview with Jim, the cops are like, this kid makes me feel weird. I don't like his story. I don't like what he has to say. I don't like his peach fuzz mustache. I don't like his pimples. I don't like his unibrow.
Investigators don't like the sound of Jim's story, so they ask him to take a lie detector test.
Which is crazy.
That is crazy.
To give a 15-year-old a poly?
I mean, it's the 70s. It was a crazy time. Well,
they're like, snort that line of Coke and then take a poly. Let's have some fun with this one.
Y'all, Jim fails his poly. Mm-hmm. Now, listen, we know polygraphs do not hold up in a court of law, and also they are not always reliable.
And he was 15. Maybe he was excited or nervous or scared. That's going to raise your heart rate. So he goes back 3 days later and he's like, all right, listen, I know I'm only 15. It's super weird that you guys gave me a poly. Can I have one of those cigs? Yeah, there you go. Here we go. And he's like, let me take that poly again. Because I lied a little bit the first time. And they're like, you think? Yeah, you lit that fucking thing up like the dashboard of my car.
Ellen's car. Boom, boom, ba, boom, 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 boom. Turning on her car is like playing Simon. That's what I feel like I'm playing when I start your car up.
I actually think it's a fucking ruse because my tire pressure is not low. It keeps telling me that it is. I have checked it. I have kicked those tires. They're fine.
If that car could talk and you brought it in to get checked and that car could talk, it would go, oh, thank God! I've been waiting! Help! Help! This crazy woman been driving me around New Jersey. I am not well. Look at me. Look at my ear. My rear view side mirror, that's my ear. It's hanging on by a thread, by a piece of duct tape, and a miracle. I'm on the turnpike sweating. Help me! Help!
It's funny because it's true. can't have a nice car. I'm too hard on my cars.
It's all right, my love.
Listen, go enjoy your Volvo.
Jim admits he was lying when he failed the polygraph. He did in fact go to the bowling alley, but he left much earlier, around 10 p.m. On his way back, he stopped by Tim's house, but no one was home.
So Jim does change his story, right? He says that he did go to the bowling alley, but he left at like 10 p.m., not 12:30 a.m. like he said before. Then on his way home, he went to Tim's house. Tim wasn't home. So he cuts through Dinah's yard on his way to his own house. That's when he says he saw Dinah on the ground with a knife in her back. And he says, I got scared because I thought, oh my God, if somebody catches me or if I go and tell someone, they're going to think I did this. So he ran off and went back to the bowling alley.
Really? I know when I am just terrified, when I am fear-stricken, when I am so worried, when my anxiety is so palpable. I'm like, let me just head back to the lanes.
Yeah, I'm gonna bowl it out. Bowl it out.
I've been the lanes down in Africa. I have the lanes. Like, what? That story does not make sense. But he passes. So I guess it's true?
Well, 5 days after Dinah's murder, the police get a warrant to search boyfriend Tim's basement. During that search, they find a pair of bloody pants. So they grab those and a pair of boots for evidence, and they bring Tim back in for questioning. Now, here's the thing. We will never hear about these bloody pants or boots again.
Well, you're being a little bit Barbra Streisand about it. You're being a little bit overdramatic. It was pants with bloodstains on them.
Got it.
It wasn't like, Freddy Krueger bloody pants. They had bloodstains on them. Like, when you say bloody pants, I imagine, some, I don't watch horror movies, but, some, pants that's like blood. Like, it wasn't like that.
Got it? Blood? Yeah, okay, got it. But they never tell us anything about it.
They never speak about it again. That is a fair and accurate point to make.
And they also give Tim a poly, and he gave them the same story he gave them initially, but he also fails the poly.
So at this point of the episode, they're just giving us a recap of all the people that could be the perp. Could it be George Peterson? Could it be boyfriend Tim? And then they talk about Jim, and they say this about him.
Then there's Jim Groth, Dinah's weird young friend with the wobbly...
Joey, I swear on my home and the surrounding property, which is just my lawn, I swear on everything, I thought they were going to say a wobbly leg. I don't know why. I swear to Christmas, I just thought they were going to say wobbly leg. I just heard it, and then I started laughing. Now, they actually say...
with the wobbly alibi.
What in the cinnamon toast fuck is a wobbly alibi? I think my wobbly leg idea was way better than a wobbly alibi.
A wobbly alibi sounds like the name of a bar, like a dive bar. That is...
It totally does.
Welcome to the wobbly alibi. I don't know, it's weird.
We're going to go dancing. We're all going to end up at the wobbly alibi. I swear, though, I don't know why I thought they were going to say wobbly leg.
Not the wobbly leg. Is that a dance? Well, listen, word of the police's suspicions of Tim spreads. And this guy went from being like the dude that everyone wanted to hang out with to the dude that everyone was terrified of. And he still lives next door to the Peterson family, and they believe that he's responsible. So it's really fucking awkward when they see each other across the lawn. You know what I mean?
They feel sick with rage whenever they see him out their front window. Dinah's mom says she feels like taking her paring knife and cutting Tim's heart out.
And then they cut to a reenactment mom hacking up a steak on a cutting board. What the fuck is this?
It's a lot of strange choices. Is this show made in Canada too? Can we blame Canada?
I have probably. It was really kind of gross.
Blame Canada! Blame Canada! Tim's alibi checks out. So does Jim, albeit wobbly. I think they kind of let go of the dad theory.
Yeah.
But we still have no confessions, no DNA.
A few months later, the Peterson family, they can't take it anymore. It's just bad memories everywhere, and they move. And Tim Diner was also like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. Everyone thinks I'm a murderer. I want a fresh start. Goodbye, Richmond Beach.
Tim can't stay in a town where nobody has dangerous knives. Like, he's like, I have a dangerous knife. Nobody else does. I need to go find a place where more people have dangerous knives.
And that was his EP, the name of his EP. So listen, sadly, Dinah Peterson's case went cold. They never got any new leads. Literally, they had nothing.
And then the narrator says, 30 years later.
What the fuck?
The amount of time I have been on this earth. Can you imagine? My stars. This case was basically like put on the shelf and forgotten about until 2006. And the cold case detectives were bored. They're looking up old cases and they look at Dinah's case. But they find something pretty crazy. In 1987, some random clerk who must have had too much Adderall or something cleaned everything out. They threw out all the evidence except the murder weapon. Like, were you guys short on space? Like, what?
It's very weird. Like, throughout all the evidence, and the only thing left, like you said, was the murder weapon and some case notes.
Tim's alibi was rock solid. He was at a friend's house till 11 p.m. His story never changed, no matter how many times he repeated it.
Which is a weird thing to say. Like, whenever somebody says, they say it's rock solid, like, whenever somebody says that during this time period, you know, before surveillance or receipts that are timestamped, I'm like, I feel like we're overshooting with rock solid alibi. Like, he just said he was at his friend's house.
But if they can corroborate that story, I mean, his friend could lie.
But you know what I mean? There's nothing that can, like, I mean, if I'm like, Joey, I was with you all night, that kind of thing. I don't know. I always think rock solid alibi. I'm like, it's not rock solid. It's a semi. It's a semi
wobbly.
alibi. It's a wobbly alibi.
Yeah. And so, but his story really did never change. And again, everyone in that neighborhood knew two things. Tim had a big old fucking...
D. What?
No. Tim had a big old fucking knife.
D. What?
Knife that he... Oh, my Lord. You see what happened to you? Your mind's in the gutter.
I do have a gutter mind today. I'm like a gay man.
I blame that olive blouse, which is very cute, by the way.
I was sitting Shiva today. Thank you very much.
You look like a horny secretary. I like it.
Wait, you guys, I had to sit Shiva today for one of me and Joey's close friends. She is 68. I mean, she looks like she's 50. She's amazing. We were in Kinky Boots together. And I told Lola, and Lola knows she's like almost 70. And I said, I have to go sit Shiva for Adina's mom. She goes, Adina's mom's still alive?
Terrible. How old was she? 90?
94.
Wow.
That's a good life.
She had a good life.
Job.
Well, getting back to Tim, everybody knew that he had a giant knife that he showcased on his mantle. And also they knew that his basement door was never locked, so anyone could just waltz in there at any time. But you know what does catch these cold case investigators' eyes?
The wonky alibi. The wonky leg. Did he have a wonky leg? Is that the twist?
The wonky leg sounds like a dance. No. Well, yes, but it is the man with the wonky alibi, Jim Groth, who's not a man. He's 15 years old, and he failed his poly the first time.
Like we said, all they have are statements and the murder weapon. And they're looking over the statements. Now, remember we said at the beginning of the episode, the medical examiner had to turn poor Dinah over to find the method that she was killed, which was a knife in the back. But Jim said when he went in the backyard, he saw Dinah on the ground with the knife in her back. That would have meant that she was laying on her stomach. They're like, this is 1 + 1. What? Carry the divided by equals oxygen.
Honey, don't let anyone ever tell you you're bad at math. You're so good at it. Listen, he wouldn't have seen that.
Exactly.
So now they look at statements from some of the neighborhood kids, right? And they basically said, Jim is weird. Now listen, being weird does not make you a murderer. We're all weird, okay?
Jim was obsessed with Dinah. He was jealous of her boyfriend, and at one point, he even got caught peeking into her bedroom.
Which they decided to give us a reenactment of. And I was like, I think we know what peering weirdly into a window looks like. Thank you so much. And also, he was doing this.
Yeah. The glare. Yeah. It's acting. It's like when someone goes, what time is it? Like that. Like people wear watches. What? You don't have a phone?
Yeah. But then it turns out that a couple weeks after Dinah's death, Jim got into a fight with some random kid. And he told this guy, bro, I killed a girl. And I can kill again. Sir, this is an Old Navy. You good? What the fuck?
You don't like the chinos? No? I'll get you a size bigger. So now, of course, this is hearsay because this was just something that he said. It's still very alarming. So where has Jim Groth been for the past 30 years? Well, when he was 17, he joined the army, and then he moved to Alaska to become a fisherman, as one does. And he had 3 adorable convictions of domestic violence.
Yeah, turns out that Jim liked to assault women.
In May of 2006, 31 years after the murder of Dinah Peterson, detectives find Jim Groth. He agrees to take a new polygraph, which he fails.
Okay, now I realize at the top of this episode, I pulled that George Peterson clip out of my butthole.
Yes.
But I have so many memories that are hazy, much like Jim's leg, a little wobbly, and...
Not a thing. Go ahead.
So, I get it. It's sort of everything we talked about at the beginning of Serial, on the first episode of Serial, right? It's like, when you think of something and you're like, wait, I forgot so-and-so was there. I mean, it's 30 years. I don't even remember what I ate for lunch. It's 30 years have gone by. They have to give him some benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, well, his story goes back and forth between the 2 versions that he initially gave police, right? But it always leads to him finding Dinah face down with a knife lodged in her back.
Yes, that part always remains consistent.
So eventually, these investigators come up with their own theory of what happened that night.
Basically, the 3 kids were downstairs watching a great episode of All in the Family, which has statistically the most spinoffs out of any show. And the girls were like, we're going to pizza. Jim, you can't come. And then Jim's like, cool, I love TV. And Dinah's mom comes and is like, Jim, what are you doing? She's like,
Why didn't you just go home? That's your home! Are you too good for your home? Answer me!
Yeah, that was Dinah's mom. Like, go home, Jim.
But Jim doesn't go home. He goes to Tim Diner's where he steals the knife off of the mantle. What's his motive? They're not entirely sure other than jealousy, right? But what they assume is Jim was waiting in the backyard for Dinah. He sees her sneak out of her back door heading over to boyfriend Tim's house, right? And as she's headed there, Jim pops up and scares Dinah. And that playful yelling that Dinah's mom heard was probably her recognizing Jim and being like, oh, he's just messing with me. Like, what are you doing, Then perhaps a conversation ensued. Maybe Jim was like, I want to date you. And the chat did not go the way he wanted it to. And that's when he pulled out the knife, and the screams that followed were not playful. It was Jim attacking Dinah.
Exactly. So because the thing that they're hanging on to is that how did he know the knife was in her back? And they're pretty sure it's because he did it.
Yeah.
Detectives visit Groth, now 50, in King County Jail, where he is serving the last 8 days of an 8-month sentence for domestic violence.
They're like, great, this is just a one-stop shop here. And he's been there on an 8-month sentence for domestic violence, not enough time, and he's just a couple days shy of getting out. And they're like, oh, getting out would be fun, right? Psych, you're under arrest for the murder of Dinah Peterson.
Yeah. So in May of 2009, Jim's trial begins, and the prosecution lays out an explanation for the jury of why this case took so long to solve. And they say, it's because the police got it wrong. They focused in on the wrong people. And this was not Tim Diner's doing. This was not George Peterson's doing. This was Jim Groth. Now, the defense is all, we don't know who did this. We know it wasn't Jim, but y'all got the wrong guy.
Yeah.
Well, guess who showed up to testify against Jim? Remember that kid that said he was threatened by Jim? Who said that Jim said, I've killed a girl and I'll kill again. Yeah, he testified against Jim. And his testimony is what swayed the jury.
The jury deliberates for 3 days before returning a verdict. Jim Groth is guilty of second-degree murder for stabbing Dinah Peterson.
And as of the release of this episode, Jim Groth is eligible for parole in 2025.
I have thoughts on this case.
Okay, I have some research. You want to do thoughts first?
No, give me the research, and then I'll give you my thoughts.
Okay, great. So what they didn't include in the episode is they actually arrested Tim Diner.
Oh.
Yeah, they didn't just take him in for questioning. They took him in and they arrested him when they seized the clothing and the boots that he was wearing, but they didn't have anything to hold him on. So this is what's interesting about the timeline that wasn't included in the episode. Dinah's body was found early in the morning in the front. But, the cops came first, and the medical examiner did not arrive until 2:15 p.m. And the reason this is really important is the police interviewed a neighbor by the name of Stephen Larson. And in his written statement that was prepared by Detective Roger Dunn, Larson said when he came home from a friend's house at about noon, obviously, there's cop cars outside, the whole neighborhood is talking. He went up to Jim Groth and was like, what happened? So Jim tells neighbor Steve that Dinah had been killed and said that she had been knifed. Now, that statement was at noon. We didn't know this was a murder with a knife or anything until the medical examiner got there at 2:15 when they realized the method in which this poor girl had her life taken. And that guy who had that confrontation with Jim Groth, who basically sealed his fate, his name was Eric Hansen. I don't know why they didn't mention his name. I want to talk about the appeal because actually, even though I think this guy is 100% guilty, his appeal holds a lot of weight and is really fascinating. In his appeal, Groth argued that the destruction of the evidence violated his due process, and he was required to have a dismissal. And I was like, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was a statement made in the appeal that said, the extent to any conclusions can be drawn from the record. It appears the sheriff's office negligently destroyed evidence of which any exculpatory value was not present. So basically, exculpatory means like helping out his case, could prove, an alibi or prove that he didn't do it. And so basically, his appeals really questioned not only the integrity of that initial investigation, because the evidence was completely mishandled, but was that misconduct on law enforcement side? There's been a lot of cases that are similar to this, but the Court of Appeals still rejected his argument, and they were just like, yeah, well, that evidence wouldn't have helped you out anyway. You're still guilty. While I agree, his due process was violated. And so here's another thing. I cannot find Jim Groth. I looked through, he was transferred prisons, and I go through the inmate search to see where they are. I think he's out. He is not he's not out on an appeal, but I think he might have already been paroled because I looked through 5 different prisons in Washington when I couldn't find him. And I have his DOE number, and it kept saying inmate not found.
Wow.
So I don't know. What do you think about the standing of that appeal? We do have the right to a fair trial. Do I think a murderer should be out in the streets? Absolutely not. But does he have a point in that appeal? Kinda.
Yeah. Do I think that all arrows point to Jim? Absolutely. Do I think that they have concrete evidence to prove that it was him? No. I think that this is all built on circumstantial evidence. And the fact that most of the evidence was destroyed in the 80s, I don't think so. Again, if I take my emotion out of it, right, and I'm just going by the law, and we're all supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. Yes, this man has a history of violence. Yes, when he was 15, he threatened someone's life. I just don't think that they have solid evidence that proves he held that knife and murdered Dinah with it. I just don't think they do.
I don't think we've ever come across this because I read through the whole appeal. And as I was reading it, I was like, oh my God, he's going to get, I didn't want to go to the end and see if they upheld his conviction or not. But as I was reading it, I was like, fair point. Fair point. Ooh, fair point.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really want to hear what you guys all think about this because, if we want the bad guys to be put away and we want justice, we got to play by the same rules for everyone. I know we don't.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's worth noting.
Yeah, I was just going to say, every prosecutor knows if you're, and any investigator, anyone who's building a case against someone, you better have all of your I's dotted and all your T's crossed.
Because you only get one chance.
That's it. And it's got to be upheld in a court of law. It's got to be proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. And I just don't think that they did that.
Yeah. And then the other part of me is you beat women, so I actually don't care. And 8 months isn't enough for a domestic violence charge.
Yeah.
But that's why I don't work in law enforcement.
Yeah, no, of course he's a piece of shit. I'm just saying, you have to give everyone their due process.
Yeah. And it's so senseless, and that poor family. And if
she was just a baby.
And I do think the family got justice, because I do think that is who took their baby away from them, but it's still just an interesting point. Say something funny.
Well, going back to your car having a voice. If your car could go to AutoZone and speak up, it would say, "Why are you here looking under the hood? Could you take a look at my ass? It's filled with all kinds of shit, and not like the normal kind of shit. I'm pretty sure there's merch. I think that there's a Cliff Bar from 1975. Also, I think there's a couple wigs in there, and my ass is falling off." Your ass? The muffler! My ass is dragging on the ground. Just help me!
Wigs come in handy at very odd circumstances.
Help me!
Now. Oh, down, bitches. We got recommended this show because of the reenactments. A lot of you messaged and was like, you will not be disappointed. And I'm not.
No.
Thank you so much.
No. They're giving you what I like to call half in, half out acting, where they're like, oh, I'm here and I want to collect my paycheck. Also, this is dumb.
Yeah, and that butterfly collar. Thank you, dumb bitches, for being here. Please go take a look at the Patreon if you just feel like you just want more of us in your life, because that would make you weird and wobbly.
And we love that for you. Also, check us out on social media. You can find us on all platforms at I Think Not Pod for however long TikTok lasts. I think we've got a week left.
I think we have to download all our content so it doesn't, all our old videos, I think. I don't know. But you all, actually, this is really important. I say this all the time. The best and freest way you can support us is by engaging with our content on social media. Social media isn't for taking pictures of your food anymore. It truly is how we get to expand our listenership, meet more DBs, and we rely on you for that. So if we post something, please like it, put a little comment, little emoji. If you're feeling sassy, share it on your stories. That is the best way you can support us and help us grow in the algorithm. You gotta play the game, baby.
And if you want to see these faces all animated and wobbly on your computer, you can head over to YouTube and watch our episodes there. You can find us under I Think Not Pod. Like, subscribe, twerk, I don't know, whatever it is we do.
To twerk, begin by squatting.
Kids are wild over there. Anyway, thank you so much for being here, and we will be back soon, I think. I don't know. Maybe we'll see you tomorrow. Maybe we'll see you next week. Maybe we won't show up, but I love you, Joey.
I love you too, Yellow Marie Marshall and EDBs. I hope you have a blessed weekend.
I love you, dumb bitches.
Bye.
Bye.